Hello and welcome to Broken Entertainment, and today I want to talk about a little thing going around the internet about the Power Rangers Kickstarter and how, according to some of the people on Twitter, Boom Studios and other major companies shouldn't be allowed to crowdfund at all. And we're going to look at an article that's from September, but it's talking about Boom Studios, not the Power Rangers, but their Berserker campaign that is the first campaign they did that pissed off a bunch of the same people. Now, I'm not going to bring up Twitter threads because I don't use Twitter anymore. I've deleted my account. I can't read any of it without signing back up, and I'm not going to do it. But here's the thing. Even questioning whether companies should be allowed to, the gist of the complaint was Power Rangers is worth a whole bunch of money, so therefore they don't need to crowdfund to do this project, and they're taking money out of the pockets of indie creators. The problem with that logic is, well, there's really two major problems. The first one is that, yes, Power Rangers is worth a lot of money, and it's owned by Hasbro, not by Boom Studios. Boom Studios is a small little company that publishes comics, and they pay for the rights to publish Power Ranger comics. They've been doing an awesome job, and if you're a Power Rangers fan and you haven't checked them out, you absolutely should. And I would definitely recommend this Kickstarter for that purpose. But the other problem is it brings in, having these companies with these big successful campaigns brings people on to Kickstarter, and once they're there, they look around. For example, I've never done anything with Kickstarter before. I use Indiegogo all the time to get Comicsgate projects and other projects. When Power Rangers launched their Kickstarter, suddenly I'm on Kickstarter because I went there to back Power Rangers. And it works a lot like a store. If you picture Kickstarter as Target, okay? You go into Target and you're like, I need to get, let's say, hand sanitizer. I need to get hand sanitizer. So you go in there, you walk past a bunch of aisles, you pick up the hand sanitizer, and you're like, while I'm here, and you start looking around for other things you may need or want. And you walk out of the store buying more than you walked in intending to buy. It happens all the time. That's what these major companies crowdfunding, if you want to call Boom a major company, crowdfunding on Kickstarter does. It brings people in. They pay for the Kickstarter they want to pay for, and then they're like, wow, hey, look at this. There's other projects. For example, go to the bottom of the Power Rangers Kickstarter. And what do you see? Links to other comics you might be interested in. And these are not by major corporations. And the other thing is, Power Rangers is making, right now they're at $538,508. Over 1,000 backers. The people that are complaining on Twitter are saying that all 1,047 backers would have bought their stuff, but they're not because they're buying this. That's not how it works. Additionally, their problem with all this really isn't that the companies are crowdfunding on here. That's not what it is. It's that they're successful. And a lot of the people complaining on Twitter are comic book professionals or quote-unquote comic book professionals who have tried Kickstarter and it hasn't worked. And the difference is, other than the interest in the comic in particular, Boom has been nothing but gracious and wonderful to its fans. They have fed in to the Power Rangers fan base. They have respected the lore. They've respected the past actors. I got a message from them about a week ago No, not even that long. A couple days ago. Promoting their Kickstarter. And in it they had a video from the woman who played Aisha, the second Yellow Power Ranger. And they talked about, at the end of that, the death of Thuy Trang, who was the original Yellow Power Ranger. And she died several years ago in a car accident. And it talked about how they go and do their utmost to respect her by respecting the character in the comics. That alone brings people in. Where you have writers at DC and Marvel who don't respect the property and don't respect the fans and don't respect the lore, Boom Studios is doing exactly the opposite. And it's making them $538,508 to this point, with 15 days left to go. And when they did their Berserker campaign with Keanu Reeves, over $1 million. Whereas these people, unfortunately, on Twitter, a lot of comic book professionals attack the fans. If you don't like their work, which is not hard to do because most of it's boring, a lot of it's agenda-driven, they attack the fans for it. Boom is doing the opposite, and they're making a bunch of money, and that's what the problem is for these people. They're jealous. And if you go and you look at this article, this is about the same issue in September, because this is when they were funding Berserker. They interview Camilla Zhang, who was the woman in charge at Kickstarter of going around and kicking off any comic that didn't agree with her political ideology. Which is why Indiegogo is so big now. So if you go down, so essentially Boom is using this to pre-order, as a method of pre-order, but by bringing in all this money, they're able to do all these cool things they want to do. You know, if you look at this project, you know, they're collecting all their comics into hardcover 300 plus page volumes. It's great. And then if you look down at tier, the maximum tier, $5,000 sold out, all 5. That's crazy. But you go and look at this article, her complaint here about Berserker. But another thing is that if you read the campaign page, it really doesn't have the community in mind. Now, what do they mean by community? They mean people like Camilla Zhang. They mean comic book creators who are quote-unquote pros, who are making comics that people aren't interested in and aren't succeeding. There's no sense of gratitude or humility. They don't have to show gratitude or humility to random people on Twitter. They have to show gratitude and humility to the fans, which they do. They communicate with the fans all the time on that Kickstarter. I've gone through the comments, and they've answered every single question somebody has asked. Sometimes multiple times. They've got original members of the cast signing books, producing videos. They honor the lore. They honor the legacy of the characters. They honor the actors that have come before. But Camilla Zhang and the people on Twitter want them to kowtow and say, hey, you're supposed to be humble. You're not supposed to want to make a bunch of money. You're supposed to praise the community. And then you're supposed to bring up other Kickstarter campaigns in your Kickstarter campaign. They don't have to do that. All Boom has to do is respect the fans, the lore, the characters, and the actors, which they do. Produce quality product, which they do. And make money, which they do. But that's the problem. It's jealousy and the fact that they believe all these companies need to kowtow to them. This is their problem. No gratitude or humility. Gratitude for what? From other creators. What gratitude? What do they do to be grateful for? They don't seem particularly concerned with ruffling feathers because they're doing very well. Right. They're concerned with the customer. And they're serving the customer, and they're making a bunch of money doing it. Why should they care if other creators are upset? You know, as someone who will probably use crowdfunding in the future, I absolutely love seeing campaigns like this because it does drive business to other comic creators and to other novel creators and so on and so forth. Because it's an online shopping mall, basically. But they have this view that if you don't toe the company line, and the company meaning the ideological line, and you don't get out of the way for people who aren't going to make money anyway. Look, most of the comics these people are creating are not going to draw on the fan base Power Rangers do. They're two different crowds. So, then she says, if you treat Kickstarter like a pre-ordering platform, it doesn't always work in your favor. One of the reasons why Archie, in my opinion, failed is because they really didn't understand how to treat backers. No. Archie failed because harassers, like Camilla Zong, pushed them off the platform. They retracted their own campaign. They quit. And then the other argument on Twitter is, well, they don't need the money because Power Rangers is worth so much. Well, Boom's not worth that much. And if you look at what they're trying to do, gather everything into hardcovers, make special edition stuff. Yeah, they can do some of that on their own. But why? When you can fund it and get people excited about it so that they go in and they spend money and then they tell their friends and their friends go, man, I wish I had gotten that into that. And they go, well, that's okay because now it's up on their store. And they sell more comics. It's really unfortunate that entertainment is being swallowed up by these people who think that the world owes them a favor, and the companies owe them a favor, and the fans owe them a favor. They don't understand the relationship is creator to customer, not customer to creator. And since so many of them don't respect the customers, we have the example, countless examples for comics, but we have the example of the High Republic with the authors saying, don't buy my stuff if you don't agree with me. That kind of behavior turns people off. This kind of behavior, making awesome products, supporting the franchise, supporting the fans, makes you $538,000 plus. So, Boom will ignore them, just like they did before. And the more companies see Boom making all this money, the more hopefully they will say, you know what, I want a piece of that. Can you imagine if DC said that? Can you imagine if DC said, hey, we're really struggling. What if we took the best editions ever of Batman, put them in hardcover volumes, and sold them on Kickstarter? They'd make a bundle of money. But they're afraid. Fortunately, Boom Studios is out there saying, don't be afraid. Here's a bunch of money. We're going to make it. And if you're an indie creator like myself, go out there and don't be afraid. Understand that these kind of campaigns are going to bring more attention to you, not less. And that if you're making a hardcore gritty war novel or graphic novel, you're not losing money to Power Rangers. You're competing with other similar media. So I'm ecstatic to see Boom Studios doing this. I want to see them make more and more campaigns and piss more and more of these Twitter people off, so that everybody in entertainment begins to see that the people on Twitter can get pissed off all day long and it doesn't matter. So if you liked the video, please click the like button. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications, and I will see you next time.